Hey, welcome back to the Unbelievable Podcast. I am BJ Reidell, back here with my guy, Drew Mahowald. And today, well, it's Thanksgiving today, so first and foremost, happy Thanksgiving if you're listening to the show on the holiday. If not, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Today, what our game plan is we're going to start off here with a Thursday question. We'll make it Thanksgiving related I think it's kind of a requirement to talk about Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving. Then we'll get into our breakdown of the Vikings' impending Monday night matchup with the Seattle Seahawks. We'll go through position by position like we typically do, and then we'll come to a winner, give you our pick for the game, as well as our picks for the rest of the league, and finish up with the gambling lock of the week. So that is the game plan. Let's get it started here with the Thursday question. And we're gonna, like I said, it's going to be Thanksgiving related, so keeping it very simple, straightforward, first and foremost, what is your favorite Thanksgiving food? And second of all, what does your Thanksgiving dish look like?
Yeah, mashed potatoes are the number one Thanksgiving food. I think that should be your universal opinion. I don't think it is at this point. I think there's a lot of mashed potato haters out there, but mashed potatoes is by far the best Thanksgiving food, with butter, with gravy, with cheese, with whatever you want to put in there. That's the number one food. So that's about half my plate. Other half is you'll get, dark meat turkey. You get corn. You got like a dinner roll or like a bun of some kind. And then probably some like green bean, cheesy casserole or hot dish. That's usually what it is. And there's probably some other things I'm forgetting that I'll throw on there. Maybe I'll see this year on the table that I'll throw on my plate, but that's what I'm looking at. And then when I go back for seconds, it is entirely mashed potatoes.
So big mashed potato guy then is what you're getting. Is what you're getting to.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, we'll start with my favorite, and it's a little bit non-traditional, but I think it. So I've seen this on the tables of other people's Thanksgiving, but this is what kind of special to my own. My dad makes wild rice. It's like a souped up wild rice. Throw some bacon in there, little onion, and some mushrooms, and some other stuff. And it's fantastic. So that's my favorite dish, and that takes up a large portion of my plate as well. But I'm with you. I'm also a huge mashed potato guy. I think anyone that isn't a mashed potato guy is crazy because it's definitely huge. It's a huge piece of every Thanksgiving, no matter what culture you're from. What your opinion is on turkey. Like pretty much everyone's table is going to have mashed potatoes somewhere, and I'm going to eat a good portion of those mashed potatoes. I kind of stick with the starches here. I'm a big corn guy. Gotta have. So I will eat both corn on the cob or corn off the cob or whatever you want to call those, like normal corn, I guess. But I prefer when it's in the little pieces or whatever. I don't even know what the name. I just have always called that corn. That's just normal corn, I guess.
It's corn.
Yeah, corn. Big fan of that as well.
It's the same thing on the cob, though. I mean, it tastes.
Yeah, I know,
but
you just call it corn or you call it corn on the cob. I don't know what. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
okay.
I know.
Okay, whatever. If someone knows the answer to that, please let me know. And then finally, I finish up with some stuffing and some turkey, all drenched in gravy. I'm not a turkey hater. Drew and I kind of discussed this before the episode, but I don't have a problem with turkey, but it's not better than chicken. So I'm with you guys on that, but it's also a really nice change of pace meat. So you got to have some turkey on there. I'll probably eat, 90% of the turkey that I'm going to eat all year on Thanksgiving. That I'm not a big turkey sandwich guy either. Like this is pretty much like this is going to be turkey. Like the only occasion I'll eat turkey all year, and I am a big fan of it.
Yeah, I'm with you that I wouldn't choose turkey. Like I'm not when I go to the store to get like even deli meat, for example. I'm not getting turkey. So
same.
But I eat it because it's festive and it's part of the holiday. So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like you can't it's always gonna be turkey. Like no matter how much some people want to change.
Yeah, sometimes we've done ham as well, like in addition.
Okay, ham I get, yeah.
So and I don't know, but I still go for the turkey just because it makes me feel like I don't know, part of the holiday celebration.
You're fulfilling your Thanksgiving duty by having turkey.
Yeah.
I'm kind of on the same page. And then I think I said it already, but stuffing too. Stuffing kind of I think stuffing's a little bit underrated, especially if it's done well. Otherwise, it's just like bread, Like it has to be done like creatively with like spices and stuff like that.
So I'm not a big stuffing person either. Like I won't go back for seconds of stuffing.
Okay.
But I like to dump gravy on stuffing too.
Yeah.
Like that's good.
Yeah. I'm a big gravy guy.
I mean, gravy is really good with every single thing.
It really is. I can't except for if you get cranberries. No, I don't get cranberry. I don't waste a spot on my plate with cranberries.
No.
But yeah, we also were saying earlier that you're not a dessert guy on Thanksgiving, and I'm right there with you. The only kind of pie that I will eat, like at all, is the French vanilla stuff, or not French vanilla. What's it called? What's the chocolate one called?
I'm not a dessert guy, so you're asking the wrong person.
Oh my God, this is bad that I can't think of the name of it, but like the anyways. I will eat this type. I'll come up with the name in a second. But I can also do pumpkin occasionally. But so are you saying that you literally never touch pie or any sort of sweet whatsoever?
No, I don't. The big one at our family gatherings usually is Jell-O. There's like a
Jell-O. Okay.
It's Jell-O, so that's the big one. There's usually a pie or two, but there's a bunch of Jell-O going around, and I've just never
French silk. Part. French silk is what I was thinking of. French silk pie. It's the only type of pie that I'll waste room in my stomach with. But I'm with you. I'm not a Jell-O guy either, really. When I was a kid, I was a huge Jell-O guy. Here's
an additional Thursday question. So
okay.
Kind of the part 2 here. What time of the day do you eat do you or does your family eat the?
So we do 2:00.
Yeah, that's what we do.
And it's been like that my entire life. So it's
we're
nice.
We're early to mid afternoon. So what happens usually is we plan on 2, and then everybody is later. Somebody's later.
Like 3
o'clock
it'll be like or something like
33. Yeah. So basically the end of right in between the Lions game and the Cowboys game.
That's pretty much That's exactly where we're at too. I think it's like I've been to other Thanksgivings where they have it for dinner. It just doesn't feel. It doesn't feel as normal to me.
It's just like it's unique. Like it's a special dinner. You got to make it at a special time.
Right. Yeah. That's the truth. Well, feel free to share your Thanksgiving habits or plates or thoughts or anything else with us in the comments section. I'd love to read those. But let's get into the breakdown here. Our meat of the episode, or our mashed potatoes of the episode, I suppose.
Yes.
Vikings are heading to Seattle. One of the toughest places to play, and it's on Monday night. So it's a double whammy for those of you who are still a believer in Kirk Cousins narratives. Primetime game on the road, also against a winning team. It's a trip. It's as big of a whammy as you're going to find here for all the Kirk Cousins hate narratives. And the thing is, though, is that this Seattle Seahawks team, they're great on paper. Right? They've got a great record. They're in contention.
Are you going to say that they're bad at home?
I'm not going to say that. I wasn't going to say that yet. I was just going to say overall, I don't think that this Seattle Seahawks team is as good as the record says they are.
The roster certainly isn't.
Right.
Russell Wilson's been good enough to get them to this record. But the point I was going to make here was that at home they have not. They have a winning record, I believe. What is it? Like 3-2 at home, something like that. But let's just going through their games here. They beat Cincinnati by 1 week 1 at home, 21-20. The Cincinnati Bengals, who are 0-11. 2 weeks later, they lost to Saints at home. That was, I think, Teddy's first game. And Saints are a great team, so that's not like it's a bad loss. But then a couple weeks later, they squeaked by the Rams by 1. Mm-hmm. Rams clearly are stumbling right now.
Yep.
Then they got destroyed by the Ravens at home 2 weeks later. And again, Ravens, a very quality team, probably the best in the NFL right now. 2 weeks later, they had to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to overtime, and they won by a touchdown.
Right.
So looking at that, those are that's their home slate right now. So they're 3-2. They've won. So the games that they've won have been by 1 point, and by 6 points in overtime.
Yeah. So they haven't been great at home.
the home field advantage that once was, the 12th man that once was in Seattle is not as powerful. Now on the road, different story, but that doesn't apply to the Vikings matchup here.
That's true. They have been unreal on the road, which is hilarious. So let's talk about Russell Wilson. He is the fixture of this team. He's arguably the MVP of the league. I think that argument is beginning to fade a little bit, but he's certainly in the conversation right there with Lamar Jackson. He's been outstanding. He's been, the thing is in the MVP argument is it's tough because Lamar Jackson is quite literally the focal point, not just the focal point, but like pretty much like 75% of the Ravens offense because he's essentially playing two positions. So Russell doesn't really have to like if Lamar Jackson continues to play the way he does and the Ravens continue to win, Russell doesn't have a chance just because he's playing two positions basically. But Wilson is just as valuable, if not more so, to Seattle than Lamar Jackson is.
I think he's more valuable.
Because
I think if the MVP award was based on pure value, I think Russ would be winning in a landslide, but it's not that. MVP is given to the guy with the best stats plus wins combination.
Yep.
And Lamar has that right now. So, and plays quarterback. So, but I mean, this roster, I don't think it's that great outside of Russell Wilson, really. You got a couple nice weapons on offense. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf has been really nice as a rookie. I don't love their running backs. I think they run the ball so much that they kind of get enough out of those guys between Carson and Penny. Offensive line is not great. Defensively, they added Jadeveon Clowney. You got a guy like Shaquille Griffin at corner, but Bobby Wagner, I don't know if he's as effective as he used to be. And then, you got a couple of like big names, I guess, but that secondary has been exposed quite a bit this year too. So in terms of the actual roster, I think the Seattle team is a lot worse than it has been in the past. I just think Russell Wilson is balling out so much and coming up with so many clutch plays that they've been able to squeak to a 9-2 record.
Yep, that's a good overview of what their roster looks like. There's a couple studs and a couple bigger names, but as a whole, I don't think this Seattle team is probably it's more discipline and it's more of a collective effort, I suppose, outside of Russell Wilson to get this team to where it's at. I think the Legion of Boom era teams were considerably more talented, much more dangerous. This team is Russell Wilson and friends, basically. But Russell Wilson is really, really good, and he's especially a terror for Vikings fans probably because they have memories of not only playing against Russell Wilson, but also the history of Vikings defenses just falling apart against mobile quarterbacks. Russell Wilson is as good in the NFL as they come outside of Lamar Jackson at running the football. He can maneuver everywhere in the pocket. He can throw from different launch angles. He can roll out to his left and his right and be effective. He sees the field extremely well, which is interesting because one of the reasons why he dropped in the draft is because they thought that he wouldn't be able to see over his offensive linemen. That hasn't been a problem. No, not at all. He's been outstanding, throwing to just about every level of the defense. He'll attack downfield. He buys time as well as everyone. Period. I think the only other quarterback that might manipulate the pocket better, and this is becoming less and less apparent as of late, is Aaron Rodgers. So Russell Wilson he checks all the boxes. He's also an incredibly good person, which I have makes me question him because he seems too nice and he seems too genuine. I don't think that anyone can actually be like that, but that's beside the point. He's an outstanding quarterback. And he can make the most out of guys that I don't think that. So Tyler Lockett has been outstanding the last couple of years, but in another offense, I don't know. DK Metcalf can basically run like 3 routes. Seattle is maximizing his ability to do so, and he's been very good as a rookie this year. But he basically runs, like I said, 3 routes, and he can't really do anything else. So he is a guy that you can guard theoretically. It makes sense that you could. There's not too much to expect from him. So Lockett's the real problem here, and he has games where he is completely blanketed. He had 1 catch last week, I think. And we saw what happened on the scoreboard with Seattle when Lockett wasn't able to get involved. So Russell can't do everything by himself. He needs his guys to help him out. Chris Carson is as big of a liability in the backfield as any running back, period, because he fumbles the ball way too much. It feels like every game he's fumbling the ball. I think he fumbled twice last week. And that's
he has fumbled the ball 7 times this year.
Okay, so it's not it's a problem, not just like a downslide. It's a real significant issue, and that has led to more touches for Rashad Penny, who probably is the more talented all-around player. I mean, he's a former first-round pick. He's a really solid prospect out of San Diego State. I think he moves a lot better with the football. He's just not nearly as much of like a bowling ball as Carson is. Carson can churn up yards no problem, whereas Penny has been largely boom or bust throughout his career. But that's basically what Russell Wilson has to work with, is relatively speaking, a very unreliable running back who might turn the ball over at any given second in Chris Carson, and a guy who's just maybe starting to scratch even the floor of his potential based off of what he's done the first couple of years of his career in Rashad Penny. And then you got the two wide receivers who, like I said, they have been able to blanket Lockett, and Metcalf is fairly one-dimensional at this point in his career. And then you've got Josh Gordon, too.
Yeah, you got Josh Gordon, who he hasn't made a huge impact yet in Seattle, but he would be, I would imagine, the third receiver there. Also David Moore, but I don't really know a lot about him, and I don't think he's much of an impact player. So, I mean, one thing I will note, though, is that Seattle seems to just have tight ends just keep popping up. Like, they keep getting hurt, and then someone else replaces them, and it's just as effective. So, Nick Van Nett get hurt early on. Will Dissly came in and was like a really good receiver for him. He scored a bunch of touchdowns. Then I think he popped his Achilles or something.
Yep.
And then they get Jacob Hollister, who goes in there and scores 3 touchdowns in his first 2 games as in a full-time role. So they seem to be able to they are maximizing these guys and what they can do. Clearly.
I think that's largely the Russell Wilson effect. He's made so many different tight ends look a lot better than they actually
last
are.
Week, Hollister should have had another touchdown, but Wilson overthrew him kind of when he was wide open on one play. Maybe the one bad throw Russ had in the whole season. But there clearly something's working there. These guys, in terms of name power, there's not a lot there besides Russell Wilson. He's doing the whole thing by himself. It seems like this rushing offense, it used to be pretty tough to stop, especially when you had beast mode in there. Right. But it seems like that subsided. Really, the big problem on the ground is just when Russ gets loose, and then if you stop Lockett, if you can keep him, he'll be in the slot quite a bit too. But if you could contain him, and then contain Metcalf, who likes to run deep a little bit, this offense is that's not going to put up a ton of points on you.
Yeah, this offensive line kind of holds it back. I guess it's nothing too new in Seattle. They've struggled with their offensive line for it's probably been 5 years now.
In a while.
They've got Mike Upati, who I think Vikings fans will recognize as a free agent target from 3 years ago, I think. He used to be a very solid all-pro caliber guard. He is not quite that anymore. But him alongside DJ Fluker, who was kind of a bust of an early round pick. I believe he was actually a first round pick with San Diego. Anyways, high round pick. He's your right guard. He's moved inside at this point in his career. And then you've got Jermaine Ifedi at right tackle and Dwayne Brown, the former Houston Texan, much better as a Texan, on your as your bookends there. So not the strongest group. There is some athleticism there. I've seen Joey Hunt, the center, get ran over on multiple occasions just by watching clips on Twitter.
Yeah.
So even kind of a basic review of this offensive line will tell you that there's not a whole lot helping out Russell Wilson there, which makes his ability to manipulate the pocket and move around and buy more time that much more important to this offense. If you can find a way, and I don't think anyone really can do this, if you can find a way to keep Russell Wilson in the pocket, that's going to give you the best chance to win this game, because these guys simply don't hold up long enough in pass protection. That's just, as a collective group, This is a subpar unit.
If Russ wasn't mobile, this team honestly might be a 500.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And honestly, the big part too is like a lot of their games. I mean, they're not winning by a lot of points. A lot of this is simply Russell Wilson making stupid plays at the end of games to win. I mean, they won. Let's see, these win by 1 point, win by 2 points, win by 1 point, win by 4, win by a touchdown, win by 6, win by a touchdown, win by another touchdown. So I mean, all but one of their wins are a one possession game, and it's because Russell Wilson's making crazy plays. He has 4 fourth quarter comebacks this season.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can argue, the Vikings are dominating in terms of like point differential. I think they're 4th in the league or something. Mm-hmm. But Seattle and the Packers, I believe, are both like 12th, and they have a 9-2, 8-3 records. It's because they're winning these close games and they're not blowing away teams necessarily that they maybe should, which that's an optimistic way of looking at this. You look at that, plus you look at Seattle maybe not performing as well at home. That's the optimistic way of looking at this. And again, it's going to come down to how much the Vikings can contain Russell Wilson. If he has another stellar performance, I'm sure this game will be close in the fourth quarter. And if they let him get loose and make 1 or 2 big home run plays, that's where the Vikings and really every team that plays Seattle ends up losing.
In theory, you'd think the Vikings do have the personnel to contain Russell Wilson too. It hasn't necessarily gone that way in the past, but when you've got Everson Griffin, who he's not as young as he used to be.
I don't know if you remember last year when these teams played. I think there was actually like the same scenario where it was like week 13 or 14 on Monday night, and for like 3.5 quarters, the Vikings just shut down Seattle, and then I think they got loose for a couple big plays late, based on some turnovers from the Vikings. But like, I feel like the Vikings overall have contained Russ pretty well for the most part. Dating back to that wild card game in 2015, which again was aided by the weather, but it's like you said, the Vikings absolutely have the personnel to contain him, and it's really just about discipline and keeping him in the pocket if you can.
The 2 defensive ends will play a large role containing that edge, not letting him get outside the pocket. This is another game that on paper the matchups that Hunter and Griffin are facing in Ifedi and Brown, looks like this could be another huge pressure performance from really either of those defensive ends based off of what they've done all season long. And I'll be interested to see who is the one that spies Russell Wilson. Historically, it seems like it's always Anthony Barr. I don't know how much I agree with that. But it seems like he is the one that moves kind of with the quarterback's eyes and is over the middle of the field. I think you could make a strong argument that Kendricks might be even better suited for that role. But the problem is that Kendricks has been so good in coverage this year that you can't really take him away from that.
Defending like running backs and tight ends.
Right.
He's so good.
So that'll be kind of an important matchup to see how Anthony Barr is used, if he's in to cover running backs like you said, or if they quite literally put a hat on the hat and have Anthony Barr watch Russell Wilson on some plays. So that'll be an interesting scenario. The last thing about this offense before we move on to the defensive side of the ball is you've got 2 receivers that are very fast, and the Vikings have 2 cornerbacks who have not performed well lately. I think it's I've probably undersold Tyler Lockett because of how he played last week, and because he's not the stereotypical type of wide receiver that if you were to build a wide receiver on Madden, it wouldn't look like Tyler Lockett. But he has a knack for getting open, and him and Wilson have some sort of connection that just I don't know what it is.
That touchdown against the Rams, I believe, was it that Thursday night game where he like just
deep in the corner of the end zone?
Lofted it back. Yeah, that's. There are a few, if any, quarterback receiver duos that are making that play.
Right.
So it's not. I think you might be right in that we kind of undersold Lockett. He's a stud for sure. But
against the Vikings secondary is a problem.
Yeah, I think the point is that he has been contained, often in the past. It's just that the Vikings secondary is struggling right now in major fashion.
If they come out with 3 wide receivers,
he's the type of player that can get loose. Because another small, quick, fast receiver, Tyreek Hill. He got loose for some big plays against the Vikings. I would say Hill is a little bit faster, a little bit more of a big play threat, but Lockett is kind of in that same mold where he's in the slot and he can simply run right by you. So
if we get DK Metcalf and Trey Waynes, though, that might be the perfect matchup for Trey Waynes' talent.
In a way, I struggle with like.
I could see that being a perfect lockdown performance.
If Russ were to throw a 50-50 ball up, you got Metcalf who's yoked, and then you have Trey Waynes who's not yoked. So you'd have in terms of size and physicality, you might have a difference there, but in terms of their like athleticism
and their weaknesses though too. Wayne's weakness has always been quick breaking passes. So
yeah, you're right.
Comebacks and
Cap doesn't run those
slants
very quickly.
He does, or
Big
run them
three
at
cone
all.
drill numbers that everybody talks about when they say his name.
Yeah. Anyways, that'll be an interesting overall matchup to see the Vikings defense up against this offense. If you can find a way to get average Russell Wilson, I think the Vikings have a very good chance to win this game.
Oh yeah, let's look at the Seattle defense or Seattle offense rankings quick. So rushing the ball, they're very average at 14th in the NFL in terms of yards per attempt. But passing, they are 6th in that same category, yards per attempt. So that's Russ. And then, of course, in crunch time, he's got the 4 fourth quarter comebacks. I believe that is first in the league.
Yep.
I would imagine that it is. So overall, on offense, they are 5th in yards, 7th in points. Defense, they are 23rd. We'll get to the defense here because we'll transition here. But they are 23rd in yards and 21st in points allowed.
Yeah, so this defense is definitely not what it used to be. There's some of the key figures from, well, really, I think it's just the one now, right? Bobby Wagner.
Yeah,
well, KJ Wright, too, is also from those Legion of Boom days. But everything else is remade for the most part here. The defensive line is completely, I think Jaron Reed is the only guy that was even on this unit last year, in a starter capacity.
It's brand new stuff.
So you got Poona Ford, who everyone loves because of his name. He's going to be one of your pluggers up the middle I believe he's the nose and Reed is the 3 technique. And then you've got Jadeveon Clowney, came over from Houston for the first round pick, or was it his first round pick? Third round pick.
I don't know what it was.
It was a third round pick. He came over from Houston for a third round pick, and there's a linebacker involved that hasn't played at all. And then you've got Ziggy Ansah, who you probably remember from the Detroit days. So a lot of talent here. Jadeveon Clowney being maybe the most talented player to ever come out of college. At least when he was coming out of South Carolina, his prospect status was
it was unbelievable.
So he might be the most talented human being to play this sport, but he's not always gotten the most out of his ability. I don't think
he's had injuries, and I think he's had he gets too aggressive sometimes.
Yeah,
I think, which has. It was okay in college because he was just that much more athletic than everybody, but in the NFL he's gotten beat for it, a few times.
Yeah. So maybe 3 or 4 years ago, those ends would look a lot more dangerous. But don't get me wrong, Clowney's still a game wrecker if you let him loose. Could be a real problem for Riley Reif if he puts up a performance like he did against Denver once again against a more talented player. But the rest of this line, I mean, Ziggy Ansah is gassed, right? He's done?
I think so.
Okay.
Now we're going to get burned for that. He's going to have 3 sacks. But.
Yeah. He used to play the Vikings pretty well when he was with Detroit, but he's had a slew of injuries. He's basically missed the large part of 2 years now, I believe. He hasn't been on the field much the last couple of years, and when he has been, he has not been too effective. So
yeah, no player on the Seahawks has more than 3 sacks this year.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So. Also, one of those players that has 3 is Eric Kendrick's brother, Michael.
Yeah, Michael Kendrick's. We got a little brother battle here. Michael Kendrick's also the one that got in trouble with insider trading.
Yeah, that's a little funny.
Had that cloud looming over his head for some time now. And then the other 2 are the familiar faces from the Seattle defensive fold. Bobby Wagner, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Period. He can do literally everything. He's also the signal caller of this defense. He gets everyone in the right position. He gets the ball as fast sometimes, I suppose. And then KJ Wright's the last one. So the linebackers it's basically Bobby Wagner's group there. He makes that unit run. He's by far the most important player on this defense still. Even with, I think you kind of alluded to this. He may not be the player that he used to be, but he's still as good as any linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he
still leads in terms of instincts.
He's going to have the most tackles in this game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Probably. That's a good bet.
He always seems to.
And if he doesn't, KJ Wright will be right behind him.
Yeah.
So
other of note, I suppose, Shaquem Griffin is also part of the linebacker group. He's been making more of an impact lately than he had been he basically was irrelevant his rookie season. He's making a little bit more of an impact now. You might see his name out there, a couple times this game. The more important Griffin in this defense, though, is his brother Shaquille, the cornerback, who has really turned into. He's been very good. I think Shaquille Griffin has become kind of a. I don't want to put him in the top 10 conversation for cornerbacks, but he's getting there. He's made a couple of huge plays. I wouldn't call him a shutdown,
but I think he's certainly on that trajectory, I suppose.
Yeah, he's definitely gotten a lot better. He's a big piece of that secondary. We also get to see Quandre Diggs again, who we saw earlier in Detroit, earlier this season in Detroit, and you should be familiar with. He's been outstanding since he got to Seattle. I believe Seattle got him for a 5th-round pick too. He's all over the place. He can line up in the slot. He might line up over the top as a free safety. Also come into the box as a strong safety. He's all over the place. Excuse me. Other than that, though, the secondary is a work in progress. It's probably the kindest way to put it.
Yeah, I mean they're it's Pete Carroll, right? So they're going to be aggressive. Right. They do lead, like not lead the league, but they rank highly in turnovers.
Right.
But at the same time, they give up a bunch of yards. In terms of efficiency, they give up. They rank pretty poorly too. So, that's what you're gonna like. If Kirk makes a mistake, or if Dalvin fumbles the ball, or Kirk fumbles the ball, I guess.
Yeah.
They're gonna take advantage of that. Or they're the type they're gonna punch the ball out instead of maybe make the form tackle. That type of thing. So.
Right.
That's the thing to watch for here is taking care of the football, I think, because I don't think they're going to have a problem scoring points if they continue to perform the way they have. That shouldn't be a problem. It's just going to be, those game-breaking turnovers that Seattle has capitalized on several times this year. That would be the difference, I think, for the Vikings offense versus the Seattle defense.
Yeah. So in terms of how the Vikings offense matches up here, the wide receivers on the outside, there has been a report that Adam Thielen returned to practice.
I think Josh Doctson getting waived would be a good indication that Thielen's going to be good to go.
There you go. That's a good point. So the Vikings should be fully loaded at wide receiver once again. That puts an interesting strain on this defense in particular because the number 2 cornerback here is Trey Flowers, who, for what it's worth, I feel like every time I see the Seattle play, he is there making plays. He also doesn't have the biggest name in the world, and I would be pretty confident that either Stephon Diggs or Adam Thielen would be able to get the best of him overall if you were to follow one of them. I believe Seattle still runs a defense. It's kind of a cover 2 defense where they're going to have one corner on one side of the field, one corner on the other.
Yeah.
And they're basically going to play that straight up throughout the game. You're not going to trail anyone.
I think it's been Griffin mostly from the defense perspective on the left side.
Yeah.
From the offense perspective, that's on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine then Flowers on the other side, and then from there you'll have maybe Diggs in the slot. I mean Quandre Diggs.
Yep.
For Seattle, or somebody else will line up in the slot, but that's usually how their corners look. So, and Diggs will line up outside, and he has, this whole time since Thielen's been out. But if Thielen's back in the slot, I think that's a matchup the Vikings can take advantage of too.
It'll be interesting to see what Kubfanski, is that what we're going with? Gary Kubiak,
sure.
Kevin Stefanski?
It's better than Stefiak.
Is it?
So,
is it better? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not.
Anyways, it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do because, like I said, all those years with Richard Sherman, he stayed on one side of the field, no matter what. Didn't matter, and you could move your best wide receiver to the other side of the field just to get away from Richard Sherman. So it'll be interesting to see what Stefanski decides to do here.
Now, it's worth noting, I think, at this point, that we know how good Kirk is moving to the left, right? Mm-hmm. That was one of the things that, while they kept Sherman on one side, and the coaches knew that, and they could game plan for it, every quarterback is better going to their strong arm side, or most of the time,
mm-hmm.
Which is how Seattle was able to benefit there. Vikings, on the other hand, are kind of
they've done a lot of damage on the left side.
Right. Yeah. They've. I think I saw the stat last week. This is, I think, before this past weekend, where Kirk has 7 touchdowns moving to his left on rollouts, and there's one other touchdown the entire season like that from any quarterback. So Vikings have found something there that no other team is tapping into.
That's a really good point. That can change the entire dynamic of this game.
Yeah, I mean that in a way that could render Griffin almost not meaningless, but because it's not like they completely ignore the right side of the field, but
right. Well, theoretically, you could have B.C. Johnson. So in theory, you could have Your two outside receivers are going to be Stephon Diggs on the left side, so away from Shaquille Griffin. And then on the right side, you have B.C. Johnson on the outside and Adam Thielen on the inside. So then you basically you can allow B.C. Johnson to take Shaquille Griffin out of the play, in theory there. Then you've got Adam Thielen versus Quandre Diggs, which is kind of the matchup that I would expect in the slot. And you've got one-on-one on the outside with Diggs on the left side of the field where, as you've pointed out, Kirk Cousins has been very effective. So there might be a way to scheme this defense up pretty well. There is some talent here. Like I said, the main names here are going to remain as Bobby Wagner, the All-Pro that you know and love, Shaquille Griffin, who has really stepped up at corner, and then Jadeveon Clowney, who he is an outstanding talent. Regardless of how you look at his stats, he's always going to be one of the most athletic, strong, just crazy, talented human beings that I've ever had the pleasure of watching. He has not been as much of a game wrecker as Khalil Mack, but he has the potential to do that type of thing. Sack, forced fumble. He can intercept the ball. If the ball gets in his hands, he's as big of a threat from a defensive line spot to take it to the house.
You could say he wrecked the game for the Niners too.
He did. He did.
That Niners game. That's
really what I'm thinking of when I'm talking about him here. He's extremely talented, and I think that if this game does go sideways, he will be a big piece of that because the Vikings offensive line has
forced 3 fumbles this year in 8 starts. So.
Yeah, and that left side of the Vikings offensive line has not been its strongest piece. With Pat Elflein, you can see a stunt where Jadeveon Clowney goes inside and gets one-on-one with Elflein, or if he goes around the outside. Riley Reiff has been kind of up and down. He's had some very strong stretches, but the most recent game we saw him play was not great. And this is not the easiest opportunity here to bounce back against Jadeveon Clowney. So, with all that being said, Vikings won't play until Monday night, so we've got a couple of days for you guys to mull this over, I suppose. Who you got in this game? It seems like the Vikings have some key matchups. It seems like we are confident in the Vikings in some key matchups, but when it really comes down to who has the better quarterback, who do you trust more with the game on the line? I think that answer is still Seattle, right? It has to be, no matter how much of a Cousins guy you've become. I think the answer right now is still Russell Wilson with the game on the line.
It's just, are we making our picks right now? Because
that's what I'm ramping up to.
Okay, all right. Because the whole show I've been talking about, like I've been mentioning Seattle's home record. I've been mentioning how overall this season they've had really one game that wasn't decided by at least one game that they won that was decided by more than a touchdown. And so I think this game's going to be competitive, but Russ is just playing too well, and the Viking secondary is not. And you get Russ, and if it's a close game, which I think it's going to be, and if Russ has the ball at any point in that final quarter, he's going to make the plays necessary to win. He's been doing it all year. He's been doing it against good opponents. He's been doing it against bad opponents. I'm going to go with Russ until he shows that he's not clutch, until he shows that he will make that mistake. Now, I will say that he did make a mistake against San Francisco. It's just that Jimmy G also made several. So I'm going with Seattle, but I'm not too confident in it because I think the Vikings have a huge roster advantage. It's just that Russ is that good. Yeah. And so I'm picking Seattle based on pretty much that.
Okay, so I think I was going to pick Seattle, and I really wanted to, but I think I've talked myself into the Vikings here by breaking down this roster kind of matchup by matchup. The only decided advantage here to me is Russell Wilson over Kirk Cousins, and Cousins has been playing out of his mind.
Yeah,
honestly, he's been playing as well as Russell has over the last month.
Statistically, it's not really that much of an advantage. It's just that I think Russ has more. He's carrying more on his back, and he's making more clutch plays, which you could argue on the Vikings side that they haven't needed to make clutch plays because they've been ahead so much. By
the only time they had to, they did.
Yeah.
Well, as of late, I suppose not against Chicago, not against Green Bay early in the season. But I think you understand my point, right? So I'm going to pick the Vikings here, and part of that is because I don't think this is going to be a 1-point game. I think whoever wins this game is going to win by 10. I don't think this is going to come down to a fourth quarter deal. I don't see it. I just don't see it that way. I think the final score is going to be something 28-20 or something along those lines. And if this does come down to a tie ball game, 5 minutes left, Vikings have the football, I'm going to be very nervous. Okay?
Same.
But I do think that the Vikings offense has proved in the last couple of weeks that it's very good, and it has earned my irrational optimism, I believe. So I'm going Minnesota here.
Okay.
I'm going to say Minnesota wins by 10.
You could argue I could throw the Chiefs game at you, and the whole clutch thing.
Right.
And that wasn't good,
maybe I'm still living off of the Denver game, but I've been pretty optimistic with this Vikings team all year. I think I've only picked them to lose twice, and I was right both. Well, I was right one of the. I was right the one time. So I think I'm gonna pick the Vikings here. I'm not gonna look back. That's where I'm just gonna stand with that 8-point win for the Vikings. Ultimately, it comes down to slowing down Russell Wilson. I think that with 2 weeks, Mike Zimmer has figured out a way to do that for enough time to give this offense, a 2 or 3 score lead.
I respect you coming in here expecting to pick Seattle, and then throughout the show, gaining the optimism to pick the Vikings.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have the guts to do that.
I just feel good about these matchups, and I feel good about Chris Carson fumbling again too.
Yeah, that's a good bet.
My fumble bets the last couple weeks have been pretty strong, by the way. So I did call Kirk Cousins fumbling against Denver, and I did call Garrett Bowles getting a false start. I've been pretty hot with these random kind of cherry-picked agenda items here lately.
So you got a Carson fumble. You got what else you got for the game? Here, weird prop, random
weird props.
Well, I don't go look up the prop bets, but
no, I'm not. I think that the Carson fumble is really one that I'm going to hang my hat on. You know what? I'll give you one more. A DK Metcalf drop. He had 2 last week, and they were big drops too. So I can see him dropping one again this week.
All
right. So I'm going with Minnesota. Drew is on Seattle. Those are our game predictions for Monday night. Let's hop into the rest of the week here. Starting off with your Thanksgiving matchups. You may have already watched this game if you didn't wake up early to download the show. Chicago at Detroit. The Lions play every year.
Do I have to watch this game?
I think we do have to, because this one starts at like 11 a.m., right? So this is the one that you kind of watch where no one's talking to you yet, because not everyone has arrived. Yeah. Especially if you're at your family's place. I go over to my dad's place for Thanksgiving. So this one's just, I put this on the TV, and until no one shows up until the food's around, for the most part. So
yeah.
Anyways, who are you going with in this game?
Well, I saw a report today that maybe Jeff Driscoll's a little banged up, so the Lions might be down to their 3rd quarterback. I don't even know who that is. But I'm still going with Detroit because the Bears had the Giants at home last week, and they squeaked by them. And so they had the Giants defense at home, and they put up 19. They're putting up a max of 13 at Detroit, and basically I'm trusting whoever the Lions quarterback is to put up 13. But bet the under in this game.
Yeah. I'm taking Chicago.
Yeah, that's probably the better play, but I think it's fun rooting against the Bears.
Yeah. That's super fair. All right, the next one here. Buffalo at Dallas. Dallas really things could really come unglued in Dallas if they lose to the if they lose to the Bills at home. I'm rooting for that. Now, do I think that's going to happen? Too. I'm definitely rooting for that. Everything coming unglued right before December hits. Oh, it'd be the perfect love story for Dallas.
You've talked me into picking the Bills here, and if you've listened to this show the whole season, you've known that I've been a Bills doubter the whole time because they haven't played anybody.
Right.
They have probably an easier schedule than the Patriots do, and the Patriots haven't beaten anybody either. So, but at the same time, I feel like Dallas is the same way, where they haven't really beaten anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm picking the Bills just because I think it'd be a little bit funnier if the Cowboys lost.
Yep, I'm taking Buffalo too for literally that reason. Overall, I mean, the Cowboys have the better roster. They're playing at home. There's no reason to pick Buffalo. That's why I'm picking Buffalo. Because it's too perfect. This would collapse Dallas' season, and I'm here for it. So
yeah, and the NFC East winner might be 8-8. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Might start in Buffalo. This would be a big win for the Bills too, by the way, and a big win for Josh Allen. Next one here, The late night Thanksgiving game, which I don't like that they do this. By the way, I don't like having New Orleans and Atlanta. I think it's Atlanta that's every year that end up playing on Thanksgiving.
No, it's not. It's not a set team. It's just that they just pick a random set of opponents for the Thursday night.
It always seems like it's Atlanta. Maybe whatever. Anyways, it's New Orleans at Atlanta. That's the matchup that you're getting on Thursday Night Football. A rematch of 2 weeks ago. New Orleans lost to Atlanta. So 2 weeks ago, this would have been an easy pick, and I think we made the mistake. Are we going to make that same mistake again? Is New Orleans going to make that same mistake again?
They can't, right? There's no way.
I don't think so.
But
it's at the Georgia Dome, though.
I think it's worth noting that the Saints are, to me, noticeably less dominant.
Yep.
With Drew Brees at quarterback instead of Teddy.
It's weird.
Maybe that's just coincidence. But they were running over good teams with Teddy, and they went 5-0. And with Drew Brees, they've lost to Atlanta, and then they barely squeaked by Carolina at home last week. And really, they shouldn't have won that game because the Carolina kicker choked several times.
This is true. Anyways, I'm going with New Orleans.
Yeah, I am.
They were my
Super
Super Bowl pick.
But I'm going with the Saints.
All right, so we're both on New Orleans, but I'm with you in everything you're saying. It's interesting. It's interesting especially when you start to hear Teddy chants in New Orleans, because that has happened, by the way.
Oh yeah,
that's weird. It's crazy. Anyways, next one, your beloved AFC South, featuring the Titans against the Colts.
Yes.
Who you got in this one?
Give me the Titans. They're figuring it out. Just give the ball to Derrick Henry. He might be he's a top 3 runner in the league, I think.
He's impossible to tackle for sure.
He's a top 3 runner, I think.
He's getting there.
And Tannehill's like working out there, which is a little surprising to me.
Yeah.
The Titans defense is pretty solid. I'm going with Tennessee, and I don't think they've won in Indy since like before Peyton Manning, but since they were the Oilers. But I'm still going with Titans.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Titans too. I picked against them last week. I got burned for it. So give me Tennessee this time. I think I'm with you in a lot of the things you're saying. Derrick Henry has gotten really, really good late in the year. The last 5 weeks of the year, he just dominates. That's just what it seems like. So I think that he'll continue the trend that he started. He
stiff arms one guy, every it's basically one stiff arm.
He's too big of a human. It's not. He's one of those people where you look at him and you're like, we're really the same species. It just doesn't. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Anyways, I'm going Tennessee. Drew's on Tennessee. Next one here. New York Jets are traveling to Cincinnati. Another opportunity for Cincinnati to get their first and probably their only win of the year. They're going back to Andy Dalton, which is probably important if they're trying to win a game.
Isn't it? What did Sam Darnold say a couple weeks ago, that the Jets were still in the playoff race and then they just keep winning? How wouldn't that be something? They just run the table 9-7.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm taking New York here.
If they're going to play the Bengals, that's a win for the Jets.
All right, so New York Jets for both of us. I'm going to have to start Sam Darnold this week in fantasy because I do not like the Deshaun Watson matchup against the Patriots. So.
Oh, you're thinking too much about matchups, man. You're thinking too much. You're thinking too much.
He has not. Okay, we'll get to this when we talk about New England and Houston. Washington at Carolina is the next one up here. Couple weeks ago, I think we would have blown through this one, but Washington's winning lately, and Carolina is not.
Yeah, Carolina had a good showing though against the Saints, and McCaffrey might put up 1,000 total yards against the Redskins.
Yep, I'm going Carolina as well for the McCaffrey reason primarily. Also, DJ Moore, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. All right, San Francisco at Baltimore. That's a highlight reel matchup and just kind of a random game spot. I think that one's at noon actually.
That sucks.
Yeah, that does suck.
But I'm going Baltimore because they're the best team in the NFL right now.
Okay, I'm going to go with San Francisco, and I'm going to go with that because if anyone can figure out how to stop Lamar Jackson, it's probably that defense in San Francisco. So that's where I'm going.
Fair.
Anyways, Tampa Bay at Jacksonville. Southern Florida teams going up against each other. I don't know who has the smaller fan. Well, Jacksonville probably has a smaller fan base.
Yeah.
This is an irrelevant matchup. Who you got?
I'm going Tampa Bay, and dare I say the Jags have not been the same team since Nick Foles.
I think you're right. You're right. Yeah, I'm going Tampa Bay too. The Jacksonville defense has collapsed too since Jalen Ramsey was gone.
Yeah,
been gone.
Yeah.
They are awful. And Jameis Winston, for what it's worth, He might.
He's not good. He's
not good, but he keeps you in every game. He might also throw you out of that game.
Yes,
but he does keep you in every single game. So I'm going.
It's so funny watching him. What is he at 2020 now for 20 touchdowns, 20 picks? That's awesome.
Cleveland at Pittsburgh is the next one here. Rematch of whatever the hell went down with Myles Garrett. Obviously, the players that were involved in that all will not be playing in this matchup, but the bad blood is still there.
Yeah, Mason Rudolph got benched.
Yeah,
so.
He's bad. He's bad at football. We've been saying that for a while. He's really bad.
Browns are going to win, and based on their schedule, they could really easily sneak into the playoffs in the AFC.
Yeah,
because they have.
This is a big win too.
So they were 2-6. They got 3 straight, and they still have to play the Bengals twice. They play the Cardinals. I mean, they got like easily 9 to 10 wins to happen on this. I think they play the Ravens again, but they beat them before. So.
And the AFC wildcard picture is kind of a joke right now. Pittsburgh is in it. That makes it kind of a joke. Anyways, I'm going Cleveland as well. Cleveland looks a lot better, and they're getting all their players involved. I had the luxury of playing against Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry last week.
Oh, goodness.
So that went over well.
You had to feel pretty good going into that matchup.
I did, and it did not go well for me at all. So Cleveland for me, Cleveland for Drew. Next one here, Green Bay at the Giants. Probably not a whole lot to say here. I assume we're both going Green Bay.
I so want to pick the Giants, but I'm going to pick the Packers.
This would be if Green Bay could lose this game for us, this would change so much about the outlook on the rest of the season.
The thing is, it's the same type of thing with Seattle. Like their Packers, when they play inferior teams, aren't really blowing them away. Yeah. I don't know. Their point differential is not as staggering as someone with a team with an 8-3 record should be.
I agree. All right, next one here. We got a long list of games because there's no more bye weeks here. Philadelphia heads to Miami. Miami's kind of relevant. Devontae Parker going to make a lot of money next year. Probably not with the Dolphins, but he's going to make some money.
Yeah. I'm going to pick Philly, but that group of receivers is just so bad.
I think Alshon will be back, though. And they'll be all right.
Yeah, that's true. But if there's any secondary, like if there's any receiving core that the Dolphins could shut down, it's probably the one that Philly's using right now. That group is just. Yep. I feel for Carson Wentz, and I don't usually feel for him very often.
Yep. I'm going with Philadelphia as well, just because Miami has literally nothing on their roster. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick playing catch with Devontae Parker with 11 guys trying to stop him. That's basically what it is, because they're still starting Kalen Ballage or however you want to pronounce his last name at running back. They have no talent left on that. I feel so bad for that offense.
Name me 2 players on the Miami starting defense.
We did this already. Xavier Howard isn't playing. He's not playing. Who's the Rashad Jones? Is he still a safety?
Maybe.
Think he's still a safety there?
I could name you one right now. So.
I can't think of anyone else. Is Rashad Jones the only one I could think of? He's not even there anymore. Ken Crawley from the Saints, recognize that one. Eric Rowe from New England, who is a great draft prospect. Raekwon McMillan, that was the one that I should have known. And Taco Charlton, former first-round pick reject. Vince Beagle is the biggest name from Miami right now. Former Wisconsin linebacker.
Yeah.
He's been playing well for them. Anyways, we're both picking against Miami. Rams are heading to Arizona. Arizona seems to be in every single game. The Rams have fallen apart completely. That Jalen Ramsey trade is not looking good right now at all.
The Rams don't have a first-round pick until 2022.
Yeah, they got a problem.
And they're paying Jared Goff $36 million next year.
That's a problem. So how about Sunday though?
I'm going Arizona. The Rams are so bad. Yeah. And like you said, the Cardinals are in every game. That offense says really the one offense this year that's kind of figured out the Niners defense. So I don't know if that translates to the Rams or not, but Cardinals are at home. I'm picking them.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Cardinals too. I don't want to, but I'm going to. The Rams, they look so bad. There's nothing good. Todd Gurley looks just like a completely different person than the guy he was 2 years ago. Jared Goff looks like the guy that Jeff Fisher coached 3 years ago, maybe worse than that guy. Okay, the wide receivers, Cooper Kupp was awesome early in the year. He's basically been irrelevant recently. Robert Woods is playing when he wants to.
Is it as simple as teams have figured out Sean McVay? Is it that simple?
I don't think so, because he also made adjustments as well as anyone too in the past. There's a lot going wrong here, and I think most of it is Jared Goff, to be honest. But a big piece of Todd Gurley, too, because you don't have to respect the run game.
Got his payday and got complacent?
I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I'm going Arizona as well. Next up here, we've got the Los Angeles Chargers. They're heading to Denver. Two teams that have been on the wrong end of pretty much every close game this year.
Yeah, you're right.
So
which team is
who's going to throw the back-breaking interception here? Might be Drew Lock.
Yeah, if Drew Lock's going to play, I'll take the Chargers. I'm just kind of banking on the Chargers, not Chargers-ing this one.
Yeah, I think that they'll get out to a big enough lead here where they won't have the opportunity to Chargers. But they very often do Charger, so I don't know. I'm going to take the Chargers, but they might Charger this one. That's a good point by me. All right, next one here. Oakland at Kansas City. This one actually matters a lot more than we probably thought it was going to.
Yeah.
And we say this every week about Oakland. They're coming off of – they got their asses kicked last week by the Jets. So
by the Jets.
Kansas City?
Kansas City.
Yeah.
I can't pick the Raiders after you lose to the Jets by 30.
Yep.
Sorry.
I'm on the exact same page.
The Chiefs just how forgotten are they though? As
soon as Mahomes got hurt and Lamar Jackson took off.
We talk about the best teams in the NFL. There's probably I think there's really 7.
Yeah.
The Chiefs haven't really put one in there because you got in the NFC you got 5 between Saints, Packers, Niners, Vikings, Seahawks, and then on the AFC you got Ravens, Patriots, and then you kind of just forget about the Chiefs, but they're still there. They're not as dominant as last year, but they're still one of the best offenses in the NFL, and they're going to be a problem in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah. So they're not going to get home field again, which is interesting.
Right. But yeah, I got the Chiefs.
I'm going Kansas City as well. They can't lose this game to Oakland. They've looked questionable at times this year. Patrick Mahomes, I don't think he's even regressed. He just hasn't been the best player ever this year. So, but that's still more than enough to beat Oakland. They're still a great team. I'm also interested in their running back situation. At some point, something's got to change there, right? This is basically they basically don't have anything there. Damian Williams has been meh. LaShawn McCoy has been meh. Darrell Williams, Darwin Thompson hasn't seen the field after some people thought that he would be an important piece. I mean, it's an interesting team, but Kansas City should easily beat Oakland.
Yeah.
Last one here. This is your Sunday night matchup. New England heads to Houston. So you've got Bill Belichick taking on his most successful former employee in Bill O'Brien.
I got Houston.
Really?
Yep. New England has not convinced me that they are an unbeatable team. I think they're very beatable. Because the last 2 weeks is when they've kind of played their toughest opponents of the season, and they didn't look impressive. Certainly not on offense.
Yep.
And so I think Houston will have enough offense to kind of keep up, and then at home I think they get the win.
See, I don't think that Houston's going to have enough offense to keep up. So I'm going with New England here. So just from a fantasy perspective, I've ridden Deshaun Watson to success and failure this year. This seems like a Deshaun Watson failure week. New England hasn't allowed in a PPR fantasy league with you also get a 3-point bonus for 300 passing yards. Has not allowed more than 11 points to a quarterback this year. And he is their entire offense.
Let's stay on this, okay? Because I want to go look at the quarterbacks that the Patriots have played. Mind you, that
Lamar Jackson
Cowboys,
is the top one, and he destroyed him for what it's worth.
Yeah, mind you that the Dak game as well.
He didn't. He was the one with 11 points, I believe.
It was and it was storming and raining and blizzarding out in that game. Also, okay, why am I having such a brain fart trying to find the team? Okay, that's because it's on Pro Football Reference. That's abbreviated NWE instead of NE.
Yeah.
What's that? Okay. All right. Week 1, Big Ben got hurt, or did he get hurt? Yeah, he did. And Mason Rudolph came in. Week 2 was the Dolphins. Week 3 was the Jets. I think that was without Darnold. Week 4 was the Bills, Josh Allen. Week 5 was the Redskins. Case Keenum or Haskins or Colt McCoy.
Does it really matter?
Week 6 was Daniel Jones. Week 7 was Darnold. That was that Monday night game where he had like 8 interceptions and no touchdowns. Week 8 was Baker Mayfield. Week 9 was really the one good quarterback they've played this year, and they got destroyed. Lamar Jackson. Then you got Carson Wentz, and then you got Dak in the like horrible weather. So
right.
In a indoor facility in Houston, I think Deshaun Watson will absolutely have enough to put up 20 to 24 points, and I think that will be enough to beat the Patriots because Tom Brady, on the other hand, and that offense has not looked great.
Okay, that's all fair points. I'm still not starting Deshaun Watson this week. I'm gonna start.
You're gonna regret it.
I hope I don't. Don't say that. That's rude. I hate that so much.
See, he's just a matchup-proof guy. Like I have him.
Is he though? Because the last couple of weeks he's not been great. He had 3 fantasy.
He put up 20 against the Colts. He had the bad game against the Ravens. Yeah, that's fine. But
the game against the Colts was not great either.
It was fine.
It was fine. That's what it was. It was fine.
It's QB1, like a standard QB1 game. He put up 20 points. Whatever. It's 18. I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Anyways, I'm going New England. Drew's going Houston, and that finishes with our picks. Last thing that we have to do here is our gambling lock of the week, which has not been going great lately. However, Baltimore -3, that turned out very well for me. I'm excited about that. So I got mine right.
What did I even pick last week?
You were Denver +4, and that did not work out for you. So I'm back on track. You, unfortunately, are not.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, awesome. So whatever I say in this, you're gonna have to fade it. Goodness gracious, the Ravens are favored by 6 against the 49ers. I'm still trying to come up with my lock of the week, so why don't you go and give yours?
I'm going to stick with – I had a different one, but I'm going to go with the one that you mentioned earlier. I like it a lot, and I'm going to steal it. Chicago-Detroit under 39.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing that too, but I wanted to look at the board.
Like the final score of that game is going to be like 17-12 at the most.
Yeah, if there will not be one team that scores 2 touchdowns in that game, right?
No. So I'm going. That's my pick. Chicago, Detroit under 39.
Okay. All right. See, I should have just went with that. Okay. Oh, I got it. This is like my 4th time this year putting the Titans in my lock of the week. Yep. I think it feels like, but Titans +3 against the Colts.
They're really giving them 3. That's not bad.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, that's that. So I've got Chicago, Detroit under 39. Drew has Tennessee +3 against the Indianapolis Colts. And that is how we'll finish this week's episode. So thanks as always for listening. Make sure to leave your thoughts on Thanksgiving, your plate, your favorite dish in the comment section below on Daily Norseman. You can do a review on iTunes of our show. We'd be thankful for that. You can also find us on Megaphone, Stitcher, and then videos on YouTube if you're into that sort of thing. That page is under Unbelievable, and you can find us on Twitter at Unbelievable_MN. So a little bit of a break here. We'll catch you guys next Tuesday with hopefully recapping a big win for the Vikings on the road in Seattle. Thanks, guys.